All right, here we go. Gianni Russo, welcome back to VladTV.
Thank you, man. I've never had so much great response than your whole audience. So I appreciate you and the audience who's ever tuning in.
Oh, yeah, it was quite an interview last time. I think over 7 million people watched it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, for an old man, that's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Almost 8 million people. I actually looked it up.
Yeah. I think it's 8,000,004 is what I got. My people over here. Listen, anything over 10 is a big success for me.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people, well, I'll just give you a little bit of a backstory. We have a regular guest on our show named TK Kirkland. And he's a black comedian. And he has so many stories of all these kind of big major events that he was somehow involved in, or he was there, or he was a part of. And once your interview came out, people started calling you the Italian TK Kirkland.
Oh, that's
because you've just been everywhere. You've been involved in everything. Like, it's pretty crazy.
And it's so funny that you should say that. Because of the success of your show, they just commissioned me to write another book. Which is huge, because the spike we got in sales was amazing. So again, I thank you. My children thank you. My grandchildren thank you.
I love hearing stuff like that. I absolutely love it. Well, quite an interview last time. I want to go into a few things that we didn't cover before.
Please.
Well, first of all, you talked about your relationship with your father, which was somewhat strained, but I guess your father was involved in the mafia?
No, my father would love to be involved in the mafia. My father was a wannabe guy, and he was living off his reputation of his uncles who were in the mafia in Sicily. The only reason I got to meet Costello that day when he asked me my name, I said, Gianni Russo. So he said, who's Angelo Russo to you? I said, Angelo Russo? That's my great uncle. He said, when'd you see him last? I said, you kidding me or what? He said, no, when'd you see him last? I said, I never saw him. He said, why is that? I said, they hung him in Sicily in 1947 when they were cleaning up Cosa Nostra. So the guy I saw him with every day, who I thought was his friend, was actually his bodyguard. And I was selling ballpoint pens, because I was still deformed from polio, in front of the Sherry Netherlands. And, all these rich people give me $1. And I was buying these things for 15 cents with a great markup. So he says to Blackie, take that box from him. I said, you ain't taking my box. He gives me 3 $100 bills. I never saw a $100 bill in my life. I'm 13 years old. He says, you'll never do this again. I said, why? Why are you doing this? You know where the Waldorf Astoria is? I said, of course. He's meet me there tomorrow, 11 o'clock, in the lobby near a clock in the lobby. It's a famous clock. He's be there at the clock, and he'll come and get you, meaning Blackie. I was there at 10. I wanted to make sure he didn't forget. Plus, I had $300. And he sat me down and he told me the story that my uncle was responsible for his family coming to America. Here's a fact nobody knows, your audience, nobody knows. Carlo Gambino, at the age of 17, came to America. He was already a made man in Sicily with that Gambino fascism, which is amazing. It's still going very strong over there. And Vito Genovese. So that's why he said, from now on, you be my messenger, do whatever you want to do, but you'll never beg on the streets again, thanks to your uncle.
Well, there's a part in your book where you said that your father utilized his mafia connections to get your mom put into an asylum for the mentally ill.
Well, yeah, because of the guys in the neighborhood. See, the thing was this. My father had a no-show job because of Albert Anastasia and Tony Anastasia on the waterfront. And my father was a musician at night. He was good, but that was his escape every night, to go out and cheat. And the reason he put my mother in a mental institution, because he found a girlfriend he really liked and he couldn't afford 2 apartments. So he had my sisters go with his sisters and aunts and that. And he put my mother in a mental institution. They had some doctor friends and they wrote a note. Then you could do anything you want.
Wow. Your dad was a piece of work.
Oh, yeah, it was a piece of shit, to be honest with you. That's why I never went back home.
Well, at one point, you talked about this last time, how you got polio and you were quarantined for how many years?
5.
Okay. And when we did this last interview, this was before COVID had hit.
I know, it's crazy.
And yeah, so now the whole world is going through this quarantine and they're going crazy, but you've actually lived through this already.
Thank God. I mean, that time, 2,700 kids died in that hospital alone over the 5 years. And, like you just mentioned, at 6.5 years of age, when I saw quarantine, I didn't know what the word meant. I found out soon enough, because as 3 or 4 months were going on and my birthday was approaching, I'm this little candy striper, Dolores Barone, who took care of me in many ways, said, nobody can come, Johnny. This is very contagious. And like you're pointing out, this is my second pandemic. But it's a lot easier on me now because I go out and walk 2.5 miles every other day. I'm not locked down in one ward. I was in a 20-bed ward for 5 years. So, but I mean, this is more tragic though.
Right. Because were you waiting on the vaccine at that point? Because there's no polio vaccine?
I was part of the experiment with Jonas Salk. The Salk vaccine finally came out in 1953. So I was already there 4 years. And I remember very vividly, like it was yesterday, they split the 20 beds ward in half. And 10 kids were going to be tested and 10 kids weren't. Now, I was going to church every morning with my grandmother. I was already an altar boy at 6 years old. And they wouldn't give me the vaccine. I got hysterical again. And I'm saying, God, why are you doing this to me? Well, the kids that got the first batch, it escalated the virus, and most of them died within 3 or 4 days. So, I mean, I've had an angel on my shoulder for so long, it's amazing.
Right, because there was a lot of scandal over that virus, over that vaccine, I mean, because I guess the first vaccine was called the Cutter vaccine.
Right.
And 200,000 kids were vaccinated with an improper vaccine that actually had an active polio virus in it. And in the process, there's 40,000 new cases of polio, 10 kids died, and 250 kids were paralyzed.
Right. Well, that's the vaccine I'm talking about. So you're talking to a guy that wanted it and cried over not getting it. And the 10 kids in my ward, they died. But I don't know. See, the state hospital really wasn't reporting these deaths because they didn't want to panic the world. Like if you died in my ward before therapy, when we went to therapy, we came back, your bed was scrubbed and gone. You were gone. If you died after that, they let you think he was sleeping or she was sleeping. And that night they'd come in, and I have a reoccurring nightmare when I get sick, when I have a fever, and it's that gurney coming in late at night. It had a squeaky wheel. I wanted to get a can of oil just so I knew it wasn't coming because somebody was going to be carried out that night.
Yeah, scary time. Scary time. So when you're looking at this is almost a piece of cake for you compared to what you went through.
Well, I can't say that because it'd be an insult to all the people that lost. I lost 2 people. I lost 2 nephews already. And, everyone's pain is their pain. And nobody, we don't feel anybody's pain but our own. But I'm blessed. I can't say, I've been shot, run over, stabbed, kidnapped, and I'm still here. I'm like a cockroach. You can't get rid of me.
Tell me something about Marilyn Monroe that you would know that other people wouldn't.
What I found out with Marilyn the first time I was intimate with her in that Saturday afternoon, we had a lot in common because when I got out of the hospital 12, I was alone on the street. When she was 12, she was put in an orphanage in the valley in California. And when she looked out the window, she saw the water tower of Warner Brothers. And she had all these old starlet magazines. And she said, I always said that someday I'll be on that lot. And it was similar to me, because once I got the corner window in the ward at Bellevue, because you had to wait for somebody to perish, and then Dolores finally got me that window. I saw the Empire State Building. It was on 34th Street, because I was on 30th Street. And before that, I never saw a building that tall. I was on Mulberry Street. It was 5 or 6 stories. And I said to myself, someday I'm going to be uptown. So when we started talking, both of us needed just a genuine hug. And that's what we found comforting about each other. We had a lot of things in common. And the stardom that she had, she didn't have the freedom. So she would throw on disguises. I would meet her at the Subway bar on 60th Street and Lexington. She's sitting at the bar with a bunch of people with a wig on and a trench coat, because she'd walk up from the Waldorf. But she was just a normal person, man. And as I found out from Sinatra, even Brando, we all had our way with her, because that's all she thought she could give. She had this. If you want it, I want to share it with you, because she always felt, she had a very low esteem of herself. And that's why the Xanax and everybody took advantage of her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some quotes from her. She said, I always felt insecure and in the way, but most of all, I felt scared. I guess I wanted love more than anything else in the world.
So you just verified what I just said. You're a good interviewer.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd heard these kind of passages about her, about how all the men in the world wanted to sleep with Marilyn Monroe, and all they would have to do was ask, because
I don't know if it would be that easy.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what that quote really means. That I don't know if she was promiscuous, or whether she kind of expected to have sex with men, whenever they were interested, or.
To me, I take it as an insult, because she just wouldn't walk the streets and do any guy. I mean, that's not it. If you did her a favor or you were kind with her, and that, that's all she thought she had to offer. But where I was at, the fact that when we were up in Calneva, this is the first time we found out that Senator John F. Kennedy made a promise to her that if he becomes president, he'll leave Jackie and marry her. That's how naive she was. And Bobby took over to get her away from John, and nobody realized he had his way with her, and she got pregnant. In about 3 weeks prior to her coming up there, he forced her to have an abortion. And she said, I want nothing to do with the Kennedys, screaming and crying. Sinatra was trying to console her. And she said, you know what? I'm going to go to the press. I'm going to screw these Kennedys once and for all. The president and the attorney general. And once we heard that, we knew she was dead. I got on the plane the next day, flew back, because all I had to do was report to Costello, my guy. And he knew it too. And that Tuesday, she was dead, man.
Yeah, I mean, Marilyn to this day is still considered almost like the ultimate sex symbol in Hollywood. People still put Monroe at the end of their name as a reference to her.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and she was in the first issue of Playboy.
I know. I got the cover. If I come back, I'll bring you a picture. I did a collage of the personal pictures of her and I, and it's something that went viral. She kissed a pillowcase. That was a thing she used to do, and sign it. So I don't know how many have them, but I have mine. And I put it in there, and somebody, a guy from Christie's, contacted me, and he had a collector. They offered me $250,000 for my little collage. I put it on some interview show that I was doing or something, but I would never give it up. I have a check she gave me for $50 for a tip one time when I was washing her hair at Lily Daché. And I needed the money. I never cashed it.
There's another quote from her where she says, I'm a failure as a woman. Men expect so much of me because of the image they've made of me. and what I've made of myself as a sex symbol. They expect bells to ring and whistles to whistle, but my anatomy is the same as any other woman, and I can't live up to that.
Right. No, that's another reason she came to New York, because the Xanax were just using her as this sex symbol, and she wanted to prove to the world she can act. So she came here with Strasberg and so many other, and studied a year to show she wanted to become, an important actress and not the sex symbol. And the Xanax, that's what she wanted out of the contract. And that's what that was all about.
Yeah, well, you were 16 and she was 28.
Right. But I think the fact that we were together, me washing her hair and all of that first, and then that Saturday when Costello said, we have a guest in the hotel, I want you to go up and see, I'm going to be out of town. Don't go up before 12. And when I knocked on the door, she opened the door, and she only had a white terry cloth hotel robe on. And she said, Gianni, what are you doing here? I said, well, Mr. C said, look in on you. He said, well, I just ordered room service. Come on in. And I didn't even know what room service was. I never was in a hotel room. She had all these trays with food and champagne. And she said, do you want some breakfast? I said, no, I already had my breakfast. Thank you. She said, well, have some champagne. I said, I can't drink. I'm only 16. And she started giggling with that famous giggle. So you could have anything you want here. And she gave me a glass of champagne. And I'm saying to myself, I'm drinking champagne with Marilyn Monroe in the suite at the Waldorf. Who the hell is going to believe this? And then she said, I'm going to go take a bath. I said, well, I'll go downstairs, just call the front desk. Everybody knows me as the kid, and I'll come back up. She said, no, walk in with me. She took me by the hand. We go into this amazing bathroom. I mean, the last tub I saw was in my mother's kitchen down on Mulberry Street. This was a whole room and a tub and all that. And she starts running the water, and she said, comb out my hair, which I had no problem with that. She sat at the vanity because after I washed the hair, I had to comb through it anyway. So she lowers her robe, and I'm looking down her shoulder over this cleavage, and I'm saying to myself, I can't believe this is going on. Then she walks me to the bathtub, shuts off the water, and she drops her robe. Like, see, in today's world, she'd be a voluptuous woman. She's not thin. And I happen to like a little meat on the bone myself. So it was this woman standing there, and she's getting the tub with me, and she gets into the tub. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I took off my clothes and I got in the tub, and I got at the other end. And then we started talking and playing, and that was a Saturday afternoon. And I left on Monday morning. Use your imagination. I don't even know how many times I had my way with her.
Okay, so what year did you start working for mob boss Frank Costello?
Well, I was 13, so that would be what? I went in about 55.
Okay. So that was right around the time that the war was starting.
Right.
Right, with Genovese.
Yeah, when Vito came back, he wanted his family. And unbeknownst to Costello, unbeknownst to Vito, he didn't want the family because he was already talking to Meyer Lansky. They were already in the works of creating the syndicate by doing more legitimate business. And he didn't want to run a street gang. And that stupid thing with Chin in 57, that was it was a favor. And I really think Chin would rather be with Costello. The only reason he would have missed, because, Frank always wore those great hats with about a 2 or 3 inch band on it. And I think Chin thought he was shooting him, but aimed for the band because it just grazed the top of his head.
Right,
I shot
what you're talking about is in 1957, Genovese ordered Vincent the Chin Gigante to kill Frank Costello.
Right.
And he ended up not killing him. He ended up just wounding him. But then at that point, that's when Costello decided to just retire.
Down. Yeah. But that's what he wanted to do anyway. So that whole thing that was going on between them, it And again, I had nothing to do with that. I knew none of this. I saw the headlines like everybody else, and I saw him with a bandage on his head. But other than that, I couldn't ask this guy anything. I was so grateful to be there because, I mean, I had the apartment I live in now. You're not going to believe this. I walked in when I was 13, and we never used street numbers. All we used was the address on the street. So 223 is where I live. But I knew where that was. The police or anybody else could never know where those were because there was a 223 on every street. Why I'm saying that, this guy gave me a life early on. There was a snowstorm. I was at the Copa, and he said, just go 223. And we all had keys to the door. We didn't ring bells because I was going to pick up envelopes. And there was a count room, which is my master bedroom, that had 20 phone writers with blackboards. And I kept all the Alexander Graham Bell boxes on the walls, just as a memory of how this all started for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty crazy story. I mean, after the assassination attempt against Costello, then Anastasia was killed in the barbershop.
Yeah, they got rid of Al because he was getting too crazy. See, there was two fashions at the time. Anastasia and Joe Pafacci, who was the oil king, and Joe Bonanno, who was already into drugs, and the Gambinos and everybody else didn't want to do drugs. So they were going to take out Anastasia. Now, I don't know how many people know what I'm about to tell you, but Joe Colombo was part of the Pafacci family. And he came to have a meeting with Gambino and said, there's talks of them taking you out. And that's why when they got rid of all of them, Joe Bonanno was the last one, and they ruled in Sicily you can't take him out because of the amount of heroin he was delivering already. So they exiled him to Arizona. They killed Pafacci. They killed Anastasia. And the good news was that's how the Pafacci family became the Colombo family. That's how Joe got a family. But
right. And later on, as Costello had retired, he became known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld.
Yeah. That's what he was.
And that's when you started kind of working with him?
That's when, what we have, I remember it well. October 57. All of this happened already. I met Sinatra a month or two before. I walk in and he's rehearsing. He's performing at the Copa. That was the first time I saw Sinatra. And when I walked in, Julie Bodell was in the corner and he looked at him like, say, who's this kid? Because I came out of the kitchen. And he said, that's Costello's boy. Well, I felt 6 feet tall. So I sat down and I listened to Sinatra do a couple of tunes. And then as soon as they took a break, he put a cigarette in his mouth. I walked over and I lit it. And he says to me, what's your name, kid? I said, Kid. He said, no, what's your name? I said, The Kid. He said, who gave you that name? I said, Mr. C. He said, I'll never answer that question again. Ironically, that October, there was a meeting in New York. And how they camouflaged that meeting, it was a Friday night, and they were throwing a big benefit at the Copa for Toots Shaw, because he was always broke. And everybody like Jackie Gleason, Johnny Carson, everybody that was performing, all those shows were coming from New York at that time, always hung at Toots Shaw. Frank Gifford was there, Yogi Berra. I mean, they filled the place. But upstairs in the lounge, that morning, as I always did, I would stop and see Gambino. If I went to see my grandmother, I went to church down the neighborhood, and I would see him. He said, I know you know about the party tonight, but I want you to dress well and meet me at 6:30 up in the lounge. So, I mean, I do anything they said. This is Carlo Gambino telling me to come. I'll be there. So I go up there. He's sitting with Sam Giancana. I never met Sam Giancana. I met Sidney Korshak, the attorney. I was introduced briefly to Tony Accardo up to that time. Now, this is 1957, and that whole weekend, anybody that was anybody in the mob came to New York. And that's when I started traveling for them. And the reason they wanted them all to see me, so that they knew this is really the guy that's coming as their messenger. So I met Carlos Basalas, Corky Savella out of Cleveland, Totos, and Joe Sodaro. I met every mob guy there was in the world. And I just thought he was introducing me like my nephew to the rest of the family. But it was because in the next 2 or 3 years, I was traveling the world to get the votes, all the unions to vote, to get him nominated to become president. But, hindsight, when you think about it, I mean, I should be doing life somewhere with my associations.
Well, in 1961, the U.S. Supreme Court actually upheld another court order that actually stripped Frank Costello of his U.S. citizenship.
Right.
And he was supposed to be deported. But then in 1964, they actually put aside the deportation because of a legal technicality.
Right.
So how did he get out of getting deported?
73.
Right. Yeah. And in 73, he had a heart attack and died.
Right.
So he never got deported.
Nope.
So did he bribe the Supreme Court somehow? Or?
No, what happened was, it was an embarrassing situation that happened. Again, they used Sam Giancana, filmed J. Edgar Hoover and his lover. They're buried together. Nobody knew J. Edgar Hoover was gay. They threw a gay party in Chicago to set him up. They had all these pictures. So they had so much stuff. I mean, I'm going to tell you something you won't believe. Sinatra, when he was protecting all the actors that they were going after being communists and all that, and I have a copy of a 123-page dossier from the FBI, and mine is not marked up in black with lines that they normally send you when it becomes public domain. So, and my new book, which I'll deliver you personally. They asked me to write a book. You know what the name of the book is?
What's that?
Sinatra, the Mob, and Me. I'm disclosing more now in this next book than I did in this book. But I figured I got no lawsuits. The Kennedy family didn't come. The grandchildren, nobody came. So what I'm going to say to you now is Sinatra was getting so much heat from the FBI. He made a deal with J. Edgar Hoover. He wrote a note to an agent. He's get this to J. Edgar Hoover. Not knowing J. Edgar Hoover was answering to Frank Costello on a daily basis.
Wow.
And the note said, if you want my cooperation, I'm willing to work with you, but take the heat off of me. He got the note, and he sent it right to Costello. That's when they had a meeting. They brought everybody in. They brought Sinatra to Chicago. And Accardo bitch smacked him right then and there. They called him a rat. They spit at him. They did everything to him to degrade him. And they said, from now on, you sing for us and nobody else, not the FBI. And the day you stop singing is the day you will die. That's why, even at the end, it makes such clarity. And everybody used to say to me, why is he still singing with monitors? And because he was still packing the casinos that they owned. He didn't want to do it. He had to do it.
Right, because you always hear these stories about the mob had cross-dressing pictures of J. Edgar Hoover and everything else like that, which people surmised was the reason why J. Edgar Hoover said that the mafia doesn't exist
exactly
in the U.S.
Until
it just
Bobby
doesn't exist. But he put most of his focus on the Black Panthers and the whole COINTELPRO program, which started in 56 and went through 79, where they illegally
as long as they
infiltrated.
were getting the headlines. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, so they basically put all the focus on the black guys, and the Italian guys that were doing the real crimes were basically free to do whatever.
No, I mean, I can go even further. They asked me to get friendly with Howard Hughes. And Howard Hughes, I think, was bisexual, because the one guy that I knew was his main guy was Walter Kane. And Walter Kane basically was his pimp when he owned the studios. So when he built the aircraft company, they made a deal with him, and they gave him a big aircraft contract with the understanding millions of those dollars had to be spent you buying casinos in Vegas, because they're not allowed in free enterprise. So he comes there, moves into the Desert Inn Hotel, and he wanted to meet me. I wanted to meet him because there was a guy, and he wanted to meet this guy, and Wilbur Clark. I knew all these guys. And guess who he's got with him? Bill Dana, Bob Mayhew, all CIA guys. That's his cabinet. That's who's running his company. So I knew that. I report to New York. New York says, get close to this idiot. And then what they didn't know, they were doing a drip. The CIA was doing a heroin drip on him. And that's how they killed him over the years. Because they infiltrated all the casinos. They had FBI dealers as 21 dealers, FBI agents as cocktail waitresses, because they knew they were losing all this tax money and trying to find out how they were doing the skim. See, there was 3 count rooms, not 2. The money that came into the cage was counted. Then it went to another room. Well, that room, whatever they took and who had keys to that room, they took, that went to the final count room, that went to the banks. But that middle room, they didn't even know where the frig it was. And I had a key to those rooms all my, because they'd leave what I needed to do in a travel bag and told me be there, and I'd get it. There's no cameras, there's nothing in that room. But they never got to that room. They actually operated the casinos for 3 or 4 years before the mob finally got out, because they were getting too close to it. But I mean, there was so much going on. And by that time, they already had 4 American presidents. They had Truman. They had Nixon. They had Ronald Reagan. These guys were their guys. So that would embarrass the whole democracy of the United States, knowing the mob. That's why when they wanted Hoffa pardoned, they went to Nixon, because Hoffa found God. He was going to come out, and he was going to get the Brotherhood back and rat out Frank Fitzsimmons, who was running it all. I just borrowed $32 million to build a hotel, and I signed it on a napkin. That's the due diligence they did. But I had a drawdown loan, and they told me who to use. Ernst & Young had to be my accounting firm. I had to use a bank out of Utah, the Valley Bank, Perry Thomas. The money went in there, but thank God I didn't do one drawdown, because they were waiting. They've been waiting to indict me for 100 years. I never slept in a jail. I never had handcuffs on. I was involved with certain things that the 3 murders I did were all self-defense. But I knew how to do this stuff because I had guidance. If you came after me, I'd say, here, stab me, do something. And then after you stab me, I'd take you out. But, that's why Costello, he had a dossier on all these presidents. And all he wanted to do was stay in the country, leave me alone. He had his family. He was a tremendous family man, Costello. And that's it. It's funny. I mean, when you say, why didn't they? Why didn't they? That's why.
Well, Frank Costello died in 1973.
Right.
He was set up in this private mausoleum in East Elmhurst, Queens.
Yeah, but
and then in 1974,
Giganti blew it up.
Yeah, 1974, Carmine Galante, who was Frank's enemy, when he got out of prison, he bombed the doors of the mausoleum.
They're like idiotic kids. When they're playing stickball on the street, you took my ball. This guy, this is the mentality of this guy. He gets out of prison, but look what happened to him. They retaliated. He died with a cigar in his mouth. And the cigar wasn't in his mouth. They put it in because that newspaper picture went viral. The guys that hit him, because he was sitting in the back garden and he thought he was protected. His three guys in the front let these guys go in because they were coming with him. I mean, the story, and that's why to me, when they wanted to make me 100, Chicago wanted to make, I said, hold on, you can't make me talk to whoever you got to talk to. And they'd say, no, we need him the way he is. I'm right now selling liquor in 42 states. My own son said to me, Dad, if you need me to get that license for you, I'll get it for you. Because, he's a NBA, he's got all. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you're a felon. You're never going to get that license. I said, when did I become a felon? My kids think I'm in the mob. It's so crazy.
Well, Chin Gigante,
Right.
who was involved in the Frank Costello attempted assassination.
Right.
He's one of the key characters in this TV series called The Godfather of Harlem about
Right.
Bumpy Johnson.
Right.
And it kind of shows how the Italian mob and the black mob would kind of interact in Harlem and the drug business and everything else like that. Did you guys ever work with the black mob through the course of your dealings?
No, not me. You know why? See, most people don't realize after the Kennedy assassination, I came to New York as a shadow because I was doing so much business for them in Vegas and the Vatican. So I never really came. I kept my apartment. I sent my kids out of who went to Hunter, who went to NYU. It's a great apartment. I got 2,000 square feet. Now that everybody's gone, my dining room sits 16. I got an 8-stool bar with a disco in my apartment. It's still 5 bedrooms. But, how do you get that on a historic block? It's crazy. No, but that's why when people say, this, that, and the other, I came in a lot, like out of respect to John Gotti. I came in a couple of times because one of my closest friends is Joe Watts. And, he said, John, come in, just keep friendly with these guys. I said, I don't really want to. Nobody knew how much money I already amassed. I'm making movies now. After I did The Godfather, 25, I went on to make 46 other movies, 200 hours of television. I felt I was a legitimate guy. I'm done. And then a couple of people like the guy from Florida. He got me involved because he robbed a bank with his brother. I forgot his name. He was running nightclubs, going out with Madonna. And he got caught and he flipped. And he wanted to make a deal, and he did make a deal. And he flipped on some guys. And they said, well, who's going to give that credibility? We can't just take your word. He said, well, Gianni Russo was in the car. So now they come to my house to arrest me. But I was already registered with an attorney. So they had to call my attorney and say, tell Gianni Russo we want him in New York. He's got to turn himself in. So when Barry called me, I said, I'm in Italy. He said, you're not in Italy. I said, Barry, I'm in Italy. I was in Italy the next morning. This was on a weekend. I didn't come back for 22 months, 24 months that time.
Okay, so were you essentially money laundering through the Vatican?
But you know what they did? I actually got a Corey's license. They made me legitimate because they could. They got me bonded. I got a license. So if you stop me at the airport, I had a credential. Unless you got a court warrant. So I was laundering money legitimately. That's why they didn't want to break the line. They couldn't stop me. And then I did another thing that nobody thought of doing. I said, pick up the money, my money also, and wash it for us. Because I'm taking, old stacks of money. I could take $3 million in a Nitty travel bag because Nitty travel was a major. We used to move 2,500 people a week to Vegas. We had another business called junkets that was legitimate to bring the planes and the planes out. So when I had to go to Italy, I get on the plane either Sunday night or Thursday. Went to Chicago, then I get on a plane to go to the Vatican. When we land at Leonardo da Vinci, the little, whatever they were, the Monsignors from the Vatican were at the tarmac. I come down, they take my bag, and I had a car from the Vatican take me to the hotel. But I couldn't even tell you how much money was moved over that period of time.
Well, when you did The Godfather,
right,
there was this famous scene where James Caan, who played Sonny, beat you up,
Would only happen in the movies.
Well, and I guess during the course of him beating you up on camera, he ended up breaking a couple of your ribs.
Oh, no, he hated me. Spin forward about 2 weeks prior to that scene. I'm in Gillies on West 52nd Street, which was a watering hole for everybody. And I'm at the bar, thank God, that night with Tommy Bilotti, which your audience will know. Tommy Bilotti got shot down with Paul Costello in front of Sparks. When he got made, Costello, he made Tommy Bilotti his underboss. But the other guy that I was really close to was Boozy DeChico, who was an underboss in the Gambino family. Now his son, Frankie Boy DeChico, he got blown up in a car when they thought he was Gotti in Brooklyn. And that was, later on, they found a gas pipe did that. But why I'm bringing that up, Sonny comes from back in the room where the piano bar was, and he said, Junior's in the back with his daughter, come back and say hello. Now, I knew Persico for a lot of years. Him and I had something in common because he had something wrong with his hand, like my left hand. So I go back, I hug him and all this, and I look over his shoulder. I said, Junior, your daughter is gorgeous. And he looked at me. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, his nickname was the Snake. But he was an underboss in the Colombo family. He looked at me. It was his girlfriend. Jimmy set me up. It wasn't his daughter. You can't say this to this guy. I caught it. I said, Junior, have a good night. And I walked. So instead of going left to the bar, I went right downstairs to the bathroom because I was going to piss my pants. Two of Junior's guys come down the steps immediately behind me. Tommy Bilotti catches it and Boozy. Because, all of a sudden there's a lot of movement right there. They're here, the staircase is there. So I'm at the urinal and one of Junior's guys pushes me. I said, I'll be done in a minute. Now you're a wise guy. Just as I said that, I didn't know the one guy was blocking the door. Tommy hits the door and Tommy's like a bull. Gets that guy, the guy goes forward, gets that guy and just cracks his head on the sink. Down he goes. Now he says to this guy, who's a wise guy, him or you? He says, you don't understand. He just insulted Junior. That was Junior's girl. And he said, oh, your daughter looks great. Tommy bitch smacked this kid. He said, Jimmy Caan told us that Junior was back there with his daughter. By this time, Boozy's there, and he listens to this. Now, Boozy's the only guy that can talk to Junior because they're both made men. We can't talk to Junior. So we go upstairs. Should have been in the movie. They go in the kitchen. Next, they call for Jimmy. Jimmy goes in the kitchen. A couple of seconds later, you hear, pa, pa. Junior smacks him. And he said, I was only joking. He said, you could have got this kid killed or beat up. So he said, now I'm going to teach you a lesson about the mob, Jimmy. They now own you. He said, what are you talking about? He said, they own you. We just settled it. They could have you tomorrow morning. So I said, Tommy, you can't kill this guy now. He said, we just started shooting. They killed him. They want to end the film to begin with. There was too many problems. So Tommy Bilotti looked right in his face. He said, when I want you, I'm coming for you, Jimmy. And he smacked him. Jimmy was so nuts He thought he was going to get, and that's why did what he did to me. When he threw that bat at me, that wasn't even in the scene. And that's my first time in a movie. Then he throws me over. It was all choreographed. We did a day of rehearsal. Soon as he kicks me when I crawl out from under the railing to go to the hydrant, soon as he touched me, I react and roll over. He drop kicked me, lift me up in the air. And at the garbage pails, when he was banging me, he was hitting me so hard with those steel things, he chipped my elbow. And then the drop kick, he breaks 2 ribs. And that day, I made a very important decision in my movie career. I'm not doing fight scenes no more.
When you opened up your club in 1969, Sammy Davis Jr. and Elvis Presley were actually there to help you.
To open it for me, yeah. Well,
to open it for you.
Costello owned the Tropicana Hotel. So they were there. And then a lot of people didn't know in Vegas, how did they become an overnight success? They owned all the taxi cabs in Vegas. So the dispatchers would say, you don't believe let's say you wanted to go to somewhere else. You get in the cabs. No, you should go to the Tropicana Hotel. Go to Tiffany's. Elvis, Sammy Davis is there. Any star, our front door would call the dispatchers, and we'd have lines all day long. You won't believe this club. I opened it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, midnight to 6 in the morning, 18 hours a week. That's all it was there for. But the play we had, because we increased the drop during those hours at night, we took a piece of that. He gave it to me. But it gave me a reason to be in Vegas now other than moving the money. The guy was brilliant. So every time they thought they were getting on to me, I had another position. But again, you got to catch me. You couldn't catch me. So I'd go on my journeys Monday nights to the Vatican as a courier. That's why, if you read the book, when I got the call from Tehran, the Shah, and General Madaba, the head of his army, they asked if I could move some money for them. They heard I could. That's why Nick and I went over there and moved that 86. We robbed $86 million in 3 hours from 6 banks. It was a military move with their military. It was their money. And the Khomeini thought they ordered all the money because, they wanted their money knowing the country was going to fold to be in one place. We told them to do that. They had the money all over the world. We can't go all over the world raiding banks. These banks they controlled. And again, if we didn't have an Alitalia plane that we chartered from Sicily, and we brought 7 guys in from Sicily with the soccer team bags, and we had 6 cars, 6 teams, and took their banks down simultaneously. We already told the tower, wheels are up at 4. As we're going to the airport, half tracks are going down to close the airport. We were about a half a mile away, and the plane we could see on the runway, I reached in the bag and I gave this kid a handful of rand. I don't know how much money I gave him. He was a military guy. I said, make a right now. He said, what are you talking about? I said, make a right. He said, there's no opening. I said, this is military vehicle. Hit that thing in the center and drag that anchor fence. And we did. We hit it in the center of a 10-foot thing and dragged it right to the plane. We just got it on. We're taxiing down as the back door is going up. They closed the airport down, but they could never get to us. We were in the air already. We were laughing.
How well did you know Sammy Davis Jr.?
I love Sammy. I knew him as a great friend, man. Died broke, the poor son of a bitch.
Okay, because there was like this kind of controversy he had when he sort of cozied up to Nixon. Remember, there was like that whole photo of him like with his head on Nixon's shoulders, and then like the black community hated him for that.
I know.
To the point where he had to like apologize on stage and
but
and
the bottom line, that was all the mob. They owned Nixon, and they were trying to calm things down with the blacks. I remember getting deputized. I think when was the Watts riots?
65.
They deputized me. Nobody hears about this family. You should look this up. We'll do another show on these guys. The Lamb family, the mob, anybody had anything to do in Vegas, one group was over them. Mormons, Ralph Lamb, his brother, the sheriff. The sheriff was Ralph. One was a senator. They controlled everything there. They deputized, and it was on CNN News. Ralph Lamb deputized everybody, armed us. And then he went on the news and had a curfew. Anybody of color out after 6 o'clock, shoot and kill them. Shoot and kill them. On national news, he said this. No, I mean, I lived parts of life that was so insane. It's crazy.
Well, the story I'd heard was the reason why Sammy Davis cozied up to Nixon was because he had some massive IRS debt and Nixon was going to take care of it, but then he ended up not taking care of it, right?
Of course. No, I mean, Sammy, all those people, even Sinatra. How about when we told Sinatra you can't be a Democrat no more? You know that one?
No.
He had to switch parties for Ronald Reagan. He did the same thing for Ronald Reagan because they wanted Ronald Reagan in. Ronald Reagan was controlled by the Jewish mob. I mean, Lou Wasserman, Nick Mick, all those guys controlled the film industry. And They wanted Ronald Reagan. He became the governor. Now they can move him in as president. So, I mean, Dolly Sinatra, who ran the Women's Democratic Party in Hoboken, New Jersey, was rolling over. Her son now is a Republican. I mean, it's a joke to me because I just saw how they manipulated the world. It's crazy.
Yeah. And you were actually close friends with Grace Kelly, who became the Princess of Monaco.
I know. I love it, man.
Yeah, which was, I mean, that's like the richest country in the world.
Yeah, hello. And you know who made it? There was a deal there. Onassis lent them the money. It's the smallest peninsula there. The peninsula of Monaco is not Monaco. It's up in the hill.
Yeah.
But that controls all that wealth, the casinos and everything else, all the industry. So when they made the deal, he told Rene or had a mistress, his girlfriend from there stayed his mistress all through their marriage with Grace. They told him, go to America and marry a movie star and we'll make this a destination. Now, I knew Grace Kelly early on because she was at the Barbizon Hotel on 63rd and Lexington Avenue. I used to go after 9 o'clock at night. Costello would give me an envelope for the room marshal. I'd go up the second floor of the lobby, give him the envelope, and they'd give me girls. And a lot of times it was Grace Kelly, Audrey Hepburn, and some other rich girls that just wanted to go out. And they used to call them flowers for the table. Go pick up the flowers for the table. And I'd walk over there because it was only 3 blocks. But I had to take a cab with the girls. That's when they had the jump seats. And I'd pull the jump seat down. And I'm looking at, before she was a movie star. But she was gorgeous. And these people, that's how I got to know them. So when I went over there, I was held with open arms. She knew me. It was crazy.
Did you ever have any dealings with Rudy Giuliani?
No, thank you. He arrested most of Mulberry Street. Remember when he was the district attorney?
Yeah.
No,
got it.
I was with a guy last night that Rudy Giuliani goes over his house every Sunday to eat. And Rudy Giuliani lives on my block right now. He's busted, his last divorce broke him out. He's living in a rented apartment. But supposedly, I don't know when the show's going to air, they got enough to turn this election around. It's going to happen.
Wait, the Trump election?
Yep.
Wait, you're saying that Trump is going to become president for a second term?
Watch it. Watch it.
Don't believe it.
Okay.
So how are they going to elect Trump after he lost by a landslide to Biden?
He was already elected. All the mail-in, that's why Obama and all these guys schooled Joe Biden. Because of the COVID, go to mail-in votes. You know Skinny Nicky, the guy who runs a Philadelphia mob?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay. They paid him $3 million. He's flipping on them. He delivered they delivered him 30,000 blanks. They paid guys $1,000 an hour overnight to fill them out. How stupid they were. That morning, they delivered $30,000 and 30,000 ballots. Not one of them was for Trump. How do you have 30,000 mail-ins? Idiot, at least give them 1,000, 2,000. They got 2 other cities. All this evidence is at the Supreme Court, nobody else, because they know the media ain't going to help them.
Okay. This is going to be interesting.
You may want to save that little clipping.
Yeah. Well, you talked about you did 3 murders during the course of your life.
Right.
One of them
3 that I talked about.
Okay, 3 that you talked about. Well, one of them was in the hospital, the guy that was molesting everybody.
Right.
One of them was Pablo Escobar's guy that ended up stabbing you.
Right.
He cut you, and then you ended up shooting him in self-defense. What was the third?
The third was 30 days after. Pablo said he was going to take care of his brother because he had to avenge his brother's death. I get a call from the DEA saying Morales just crossed the border in Texas. We hear he's coming to Vegas. We want to set you up as a decoy. I see right of your mind, but I figured he was coming. So I'm in my club, and I'm looking out for anything. Nobody knows where and how, and I never kept a schedule because that's a good way to get killed. I see a guy at the bar. I never saw the guy before. So I ring my bar. I said, Betty, that guy in front of you with the beige jacket on, you've seen before? She said, no. I start a conversation with him. I think he's from Colombia, and she was Brazilian or something. So now she's laughing with him, talking with him. She calls my office. He's definitely from Colombia. So I'm watching him drinking from the right, so he's got to be carrying on the left. So I go right up to the fucking guy, put my arm on him, pull him to me, and sure enough, there's a stovepipe. I said, you looking for me? He said, no, man. I said, oh, no? I said, how about this? I think you are. I killed your fucking brother right over there. I'm going to kill you now. How's that? And his face fucking torted. I said, all these people have nothing to do with it. Let's really see how tough you are. How about you and I go in the alley right now? And he would kill me if I got into the alley. This guy was trained. He's one of his guys. But what he didn't know, going out my exit, push plate exit, I got my arm on him. I push plate it. As soon as I get through the push plate, I grab his right arm and his fucking neck. And with all the power I have, because I tend to be Tai Chi, I snap him enough. He goes down. I'm doing a darandelle on this guy. He never got his gun. Now he's down. I'm on top of him, jumping on him. He's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The DAA comes in because they were that close to him. They said, where is he? I said, he's in the exit. They said, what do you mean he's in the exit? I said, he's in the exit. They took him out of there. Nothing was revealed. He was the 11th most wanted guy in the country. No recourse, nothing. They came back and said the guy was never in your club. Well, guess what? I don't care about you. I'm going to make more books with this. This is in my next book, my third hit.
Okay. And you've been shot before?
Shot 6 times. Stabbed. No, I was thrown out a window. No, I've gotten in situations that go crazy.
What part of the body were you shot at?
Well, it happened in Corona. We used to go dancing late at night, and that's when they all had zip guns and all that stuff. I was at Regina Padre's school. And I didn't know, wise guys don't dance. So all these young mobs were in one corner room and we're dancing with all their girlfriends. So this street gang shot me and I'm running. I took 3 in my leg and 1 in my ass. I go down a storm sewer and I'm holding on to the ladder and they're running all over the top. I'm listening to them. And then finally got calm. I got out. I went to a phone booth, called a friend of mine, and he took me to Frank the druggist, took care of everything for me. No, my career has been nuts, man.
Okay, and you've been stabbed as well?
Yeah, I was stabbed twice, but the knife wasn't deep enough to do it. Fortunately, a lot of this stuff happened in the winter. So I wear fur coats. And 2 seconds later, I had the guy. But
okay, crazy. And you've been run over by a car?
Yeah. My father ran me over. You believe this?
Wow.
I bought him a house on Legion Place. I made the guys, I remember the Grimaldi brothers. I made the guys telling me he wanted it was $17,000. It was a great house, but it was great for him. 7 Legion Place. And I was living at the Dartmouth Hotel right on Staten Island for a minute. I was hiding out. And it was a snowstorm. So I figured, let me go down, I'll shovel the driveway. My father's in the driveway, in the garage with his car. The driveway maybe was 50 feet. And he's blowing on, shovel faster. And I'm shoveling. I'm about this far to the curb. He's plowing down the driveway. I didn't get out of the way. I went right over the windshield of his car. I'm laying there. My mother runs out. And I said, he just ran me over. She said, he didn't see you. The phone, he ain't gone 5 minutes. I knew where he was going. He was going to his club. He calls, he said, is he hurt? My mother said, you saw him? I said, that's it. I was always trying, quietly to try to do something. Because my mother and father, they didn't know better. I knew my mother was abused, but that was the last thing. I said, no more, I'm done.
Well, I've interviewed a couple other mob guys since our last interview. Larry Mazza, who I just interviewed.
They don't even know me. These guys don't know me.
Okay. Street
people. Sammy the Bull started talking about me. He don't know me. How is he going to know me? In 61, 62, they were hijacking trucks in Bensonhurst. I was so above and under the radar. You think I was going to have, or Costello, or even right now, Chicago? I mean, I'm still friendly with a lot of guys, but what I do is legitimate. You think I'm having drinks with street guys come to my daughter's wedding? Get the frig out of here. Frank Collada had an interview, who thank God he just died. What a piece of shit he was. And he was with Patrick Bet-David. He's Gianni Russo is what he says he is. If we wanted to go to his club, we can go to his club, because they came one night to State Street. I said, you're not allowed in, because Tony Spilotro was in the black book. And the next morning he got a call. Said, don't go near that guy's club. Not because I'm a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. Anybody you talk to today, these kids don't know me. Thank God.
Yeah, right, because you mentioned it. We actually did Frank Collada's last interview. He died a few months ago from COVID. He was 81 years old.
I know.
And I guess you're not shedding any tears over him passing.
But he was a burglar. The hole in the wall gang. We all knew who he was. And right. He got Sam Giancana killed. Him and Tony Spilotro got him killed. Because Ricardo said, pull him in, you can't control him. He thought he owned Vegas. Spilotro destroyed Vegas like Gotti destroyed the mob in New York. They went public. The only reason Gotti arranged me to go see Pablo Escobar, he thought I was never coming back. John hated me. Because if it wasn't about John in a room, like at Regimes, they'd invite me all the time. I didn't want to go. Because if I went in and said, everybody said, well, that's Gianni Russo, I'm the Godfather. This guy's face would contort. You think I trusted this guy? Now, I'm too smart, man. I stay away from the mob. You know who my mob friends are? The real guys, the real old guys. I still see a guy in Corona yet. I just with a guy a couple of months ago, just before he died. Real guys. Michael's father, Sonny. Real guys. These guys, they're doing television interviews. These are mob guys doing Edward R. Murrow. Are you out of your mind? Could you see Carlo Gambino talking to you on it? They wouldn't do it. See, the only reason I can, I'm not a mob guy. Everything I'm talking to you about, statutes of limitation are gone. You can't do nothing to me. I could talk about millions and millions of dollars I laundered. I had a document. I played this. If I had to live to 100, I'm screwing up more people's minds because they can't talk about it. I have a great life. You know, how many FBI agents tried to make a career coming after me? I sent the guy when he retired, the guy that went to my house and talked to my little son, Luciano. He showed him his badge and his gun. He said, I know your daddy's hiding in the house. Show me where he is. I left through the fucking back door, underneath my tennis court. I was gone. I went to W. Brown International. I was out of the country in an hour and a half. He was still in my house. I left for 3 years then. I don't go to jail.
Well, you actually know Vladimir Putin.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you meet him?
I met him. It's so funny. I'm having lunch at Nello's. I live right around the corner. Nello's, for your audience, is on 62nd and 63rd on Madison Avenue. It's the greatest place to go, but rob a bank before you go. A dish of pasta is $85. And the only reason I went there, and it paid off for me, because I mean, I have dollars, but I'm not a fool. But when the United Nations is in town, everybody is there. Nello, with the concierges and all that, you'll see security cars outside all along Madison Avenue. And major guys are there. So one time, I'm there. Guy comes over to me with a little blonde. That she stays here. She represents the Russian embassy here. And she said that, Putin loves the Godfather. So many guys did. I mean, Saddam Hussein loved the Godfather. I went to his office. A TV came up. He had my scene queued up. Pablo Escobar.
Wait. Hold on. You met up with Saddam Hussein?
I had her. A legitimate deal. You ever hear the name Adnan Khashoggi and
No.
Bob Shaheen?
No.
Adnan Khashoggi, during the 80s and 90s, was the largest legitimate arms dealer in the world. And I was a legitimate courier. Bob Shaheen is still alive. I talked to him on the phone. I mean, that's why I could talk about it. So I delivered money. And they let him know I was coming. And he had my scene queued up. But imagine if Pablo Escobar didn't like The Godfather. I wouldn't be having this conversation.
Okay, so what was Saddam Hussein like?
I mean, first of all, I knew of him. I met his boys. I came to deliver money. I got the money. We're there. Hello, goodbye. I like meeting you. I didn't want to, I was lucky to get in and get out. His people picked me up. I was there. If I came by a Hummer from the U.S. Army, I wouldn't be there. They arranged me to come. I went.
Okay. Well, back to the Vladimir Putin story. So you meet at this restaurant, and then what happens next?
They tell me about him, and he loved The Godfather. So they hooked me up on Skype with him. Well, what do they call it? They had their own way to talk to the guy. It's like we're doing on Zoom or something. Mm-hmm. Right. So I get to meet the guy, and he's talking and all that. And that's when this tidbit you're really going to love. My friend, a very close friend of mine, Jules Nasser, Julius Nasso, Nasso, he produced all the Seagal movies. Well, the last couple of movies, Seagal had his way with young teenage girls in 3 states. There's rape warrants for him. So he gets in touch with Putin. He wants a Russian citizenship. He's over there now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Okay. But now Putin's had it with him. I still stay in touch with all this because I want to know. I saw on split screen last night, he sent him to Saudi, what's where the assault mines are. They use it in movies even. They exiled you there.
Siberia.
Siberia. He's in Siberia right now, and his duty is to teach teenagers, and I'm saying to myself, are you nuts? Teenagers, he's teaching them Taekwondo and all this. That's where he's going to be forever. And guess who's over there with him? Snowden. They got rid of him already.
Really?
Got rid of them already.
Okay. You mean to tell me that Steven Seagal and Edward Snowden are in Siberia right now?
Right this second.
Wow.
Right this second. Take it to the bank.
Okay. So they essentially escaped to Russia and ended up in Siberia.
Putin was done with him. He thinks he's an asshole. Yeah, and Putin, thank God he's alive. He'd take you out in 2 minutes.
That's crazy.
He's there, man.
That's completely crazy. Okay. Well, you were so involved in the mob on high levels for decades. When you look at the mafia today in 2020, how would you say it is?
The only people that I still really know well of is the Gambinos in Sicily. I'm saying, don't think that they're not building again in America, especially in New York. I mean, little Callie, that kid, they brought him in, and his stupid niece's boyfriend shot him. I was doing interviews when they asked me, who do you think what was his name, John or Frank Callie, just last year? And this kid was living up on Grimes Hill. Why he went up there, I don't know. That's a target just because Costello lived up there. But that guy was already here being groomed to take over the Gambino family. And he's out of Sicily. He was under the radar. And they came to me, I forgot who I was doing, Entertainment Tonight, and it came a news break on a Friday night that this guy was shot. So they said to me, Johnny, what you know about the mob? Do you think the one of the Gottis just got out? You think they're retaliating? I said, excuse me. First of all, what little I know about the mob, they're not going to the guy's house and shooting him in his driveway in front of his family. They would lure him out somewhere else, and he'd disappear. I think this is something amateurish. And then 2 days later, the kid that was going out with his daughter-in-law, his wife's daughter, his sister-in-law rather, he told the kid to stay away from her. And the kid said, screw you, I'm in love with her. And she was banned. So she was in that house. And that's what the kid went and did. The stupid kid shot him in the back. The mob is rebuilding. I mean,
got it.
They hold too much stuff legitimately to walk away from it. What they're doing on Wall Street, I mean, it's a different world now. Because you shouldn't jaywalk today. There's so many cameras around. That's why, so many times you watch the news, the guy's got a hoodie on, a mask on, and they pick him up 2 days later. That's face recognition. They come in and get you. I would be doing, my life, spin forward 20 years now,
Couldn't happen.
I would do nothing.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, here you are in 2020. I guess you own a ton of property still.
I own a lot of property. I'm I'm launching my clothing line in February. I'm the brand ambassador to Corleone Fine Family Foods in America. Go online, you could buy Clemenza sauce in the jar, Genco olive oil. And guess what I named my clothing company?
What's that?
La Cosa Mia. My thing.
Okay. My thing.
It's all these scarves by Velvet Blazers. And we got a huge order for
I bet.
millions and millions of dollars from a major chain. That's why, see, like you giving me this opportunity, I have to multiply it every way I can. How can I capitalize on this? So when you're hitting 4 million people, I'm going to say, how am I going to make any money with this? So I'm selling liquor now online. Guess what the brand is?
What's
Corleone Family Spirits. I got Marlon Brando on the bottle. I represent.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it now. Corleone Fine Italian Foods.
See,
they have marinara.
I don't lie.
They got the Clemenza's recipe or the
yes.
Arrabbiata recipe.
No, that's arrabbiata. See, that's the other things. You just proved, if I'm sitting here lying to you, 2 seconds, you got it.
Right. Well, Gianni Russo, you lived quite a life, and it's still
and I'm
going,
not dead
and you're
yet.
still
Don't
doing
say
your
it that
thing.
way. You say that to a terminal sick person. You lived. I didn't. I'm still living.
Well, and that's why I said, and you're still going strong, and still doing your thing, and still doing projects, and still, got your hands in some interesting things, man. So it's always an honor and a pleasure whenever you sit down with me.
In 3 weeks, I'll be 78 years old. I got more energy than my 10 grandchildren. But I really appreciate you and your audience, seriously. And Kente.
Well, appreciate you coming down.
No, anytime.
That's what it is. Mr. Russo, until next time.
Call me Gianni. Make me feel like
Gianni,
you know me.
until next time.
Thank you.
Take care.